Capitol with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Moines County Board of Supervisors, September 28th, 2021. Are there any changes to the tentative agenda? I have none. We have an agenda. Meet with department heads and elected officials. Sarah Doty, Moines County Auditor's Office.
Terry?
I have lots to report.
Well,
She does.
I'll get to you. Just be
Sarah's
patient.
referring-
Just be
She's in charge, I don't want to irritate her this early
Anyway.
You don't get to be my age without being a little careful.
Okay, well, the first thing I want to remind everybody is the city primary election is next Tuesday. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. We have our public test of the equipment tomorrow at 9 a.m. here in the boardroom. And the last day to absentee vote in person is Monday. We will be open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And if anybody still has an outstanding ballot that was mailed to them, or if for some reason they forgot to sign their affidavit envelope, they've changed the laws, so now they have until 8 p.m. on Tuesday to fix that unsigned affidavit ballot or hand deliver that ballot to us. So, and then the election canvas, this is something for you guys because we need to schedule that because since it's a primary, the canvas will be held on Thursday, but we can't hold it before 1 p.m. And we need to get that taken care of because we can't order our city school ballots until we have all the candidates finalized for the primary. So then that way we can get those ballots ordered. So the primary kind of slows us down a little bit on getting ballots for the city school elections so that people can start voting. So anyway, we need to schedule October the 7th. And what time do you guys, you can't do it before 1 p.m., whether you want to do it right at 1 p.m. or if you want to do it at 2 or.
That's a Thursday, right?
Yep, that's a Thursday.
We can't do it for 1 p.m. 1 p.m. I think works for me. I'm good.
Okay?
Yeah.
We'll put that on the
Does that
agenda.
take about an hour?
No, not even that, probably about 15 minutes. It doesn't take very long at all by the time we go through the results and everything. So I'll put that, have Sarah put that on the agenda as a note down at the bottom that the canvas will be held on Thursday, October the 7th at 1 p.m. Board of Supervisors room. So we'll get that on the agenda. I think that's it. Besides, we'll be open till 5 p.m. on Friday. And then we'll also, the office is also open till 5 p.m. on Monday. So if anybody still wants to absentee vote in person, we'll be open those hours.
Thanks,
That's it.
Terry. Thanks, Terry. Kevin Glendenning, Moines County Sheriff.
Good morning. Things are going well at the sheriff's office, busy, but nothing too out of the ordinary. Our jail's at 72, with 5 out of county and 4 or 5 that are going to Oakdale tomorrow. So we're maintaining good numbers there. We're glad to see that. We had a canine fundraising golf tournament over the weekend. All that work was put together by our canine handler, Dylan Beard, and then Clay Beckman, who's the handler for Burlington. They did that jointly, very successful. Community was very supportive of it. They raised about $20,000 between the two departments. So we're very excited about that and just establish the future of the program.
Playing golf?
Yeah, the golf tournaments are successful and people really, they enjoy coming out for them, but it brings in donors. So that was really where we had a lot of success, so.
Sheriff's Office have a ringer in the field taking bets?
We have no ringers, but I questioned a couple of our guys who brought ringers with them and asked if they were actually, friends or they just recruited somebody that's a great golfer. But there's some pretty impressive golfers out there. None of them from the sheriff's office. We're also working towards some promotions. We're getting a list established for promotions. Chief Deputy Grimshaw, as you've probably heard, has announced that he's going to retire at the end of this year. So we have a couple months to kind of get things in line and established. with his retirement, there'll be probably several promotions on up the line behind him. So just working with the Civil Service Commission and working towards getting that testing and promotional list ready.
Does the civil service have to approve a promotional list?
So they approve a promotional list for all civil service positions. And according to code, the chief deputy position is not civil service. So that's one position that's appointed by the sheriff. So I'll make that appointment. But with that, that appointment's gonna be one of our lieutenants. With that, that'll open up a position of lieutenant and then probably sergeant behind that, and then a deputy promoted up to sergeant. So it really creates opportunities for several individuals to move on up the line.
I didn't know that. I thought the Civil Service Commission just was for hiring. I didn't realize it was
Yeah,
involved.
so they established a list for promotionals, and with that, it's as much or as little as they really want. It gives them a lot of leeway, but they'll do interviews. They'll talk to people about their experience, their training, their leadership ability, and they put a list together for lieutenant and sergeant for us. So they have a lot of involvement, so having good people on that board is very helpful, which we've got a great Civil Service Commission.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Absolutely.
Jared Lasser, land use.
Good morning. We have a first reading of a new ordinance, or replacement ordinance for the floodplain development on today's agenda. Apart from that, I don't have anything substantial new this week, so pass for now.
Thank you, Sheriff. Janelle, I'm sorry.
I appreciated your email, Jared,
Okay. What was that about?
about the DOT.
Oh, sure, the road use tax fund, okay, yeah.
Sorry, I won't bring it up again.
Okay, I sent a lot of emails, so I just want to make sure that's what we were talking about here.
Janelle now in Longwood, the Moines County Treasurer.
Good morning. We're keeping busy. The post office box was full to the top yesterday, so with tax payments. Just a reminder, Thursday's the last day without interest. So 11:59 in the evening on Thursday online, 4:30 in the office, 4:30 in the drop box. Friday morning, when we open, it's 1.5% interest, so just throwing that out there. But other than that, we're busy.
As an aside, Shane, it's not without precedent that somebody will show up in that office, especially if it would be on a Monday, on the next morning, and say that they close the doors a minute early.
Oh, no, I'm there at that door. It's 4:31 or after, so.
And thinking that we can just say that's okay.
Janelle's got it in for him.
Thank you, Janelle.
Yes.
Ken Heinman, Community Services.
Good morning. Just keeping busy, nothing new to report this week.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks.
Natalie Steffner, Des Moines County Reporter.
Good morning. Nothing new to report, just keeping busy as usual.
Thank you, Natalie. Chris Lee, Conservation.
Good morning. Not a whole lot going on. We should be winding down for the year, but we're not. I think if you're gonna camp at Big Hollow, you might be able to get a campsite yet today, but you're probably after today or maybe tomorrow, there won't be a campsite left because not this coming weekend, but the weekend after is our Halloween event. And the campground will be full for the next 2 weeks building up to that because people are gonna want their sites for that event.
The cabin too?
Yeah, I'm sure it's taken, I haven't looked, but yeah, I'm sure it's taken too. And then, big thanks to the sheriff's office and emergency services. We did have somebody sink a boat in the lake over the weekend.
Sink?
Yeah.
New structure.
Yeah, I don't exactly know what happened, but, you know, you think things are winding down and then, you know, one of the deputies calls and says, hey, we're fishing the boat out of the lake. But everybody was okay, and thanks to those guys, because inevitably stuff like this is gonna happen when I don't have staff around, so, so big thanks to them for covering that. And we met with the Accessibility Task Force last week and did a little tour of the park, and we're gonna meet again, we haven't set a date yet, to meet again and kind of start coming up with a list of priorities for accessibility improvements in that park. But that kickoff meeting went really well, and you know, basically we let it off, say, you know, no ideas off the table, think big, and we'll figure out, you know, what's worth keeping on the list later. Got some So I think that's definitely gonna be a worthwhile endeavor. Sounds like there's some appetite for expanding that out to some of our other parks as well, once we get done assessing Big Hollow. So, that's pretty neat. Looking forward to that coming along. Had some donations come in last week, for the park. And so, yeah, we're in the middle of writing some grants, putting in a grant tomorrow or Thursday, can't remember which day, for redoing the boat ramp up there at Big Hollow. That's certainly a top priority for our board. And then some other things as we move forward, kind of through the winter and spring. There's several other grants due for those various improvements that are part of the master plan. Looking forward to that.
When's your Halloween event?
October 9th. So it's October 9th from 4 until 6 p.m. is the trick-or-treating part of it. And then at 8 o'clock, we'll do the awards for best decorated campsite.
Talk about that boat sinking, I seen a picture of the gentleman that went in the water to hook onto it. When he come out, it looked like a swamp rat or something.
Yeah.
I mean, he was covered, then he went back in to look for fishing poles.
Yeah, got their fishing equipment for them. I thought that was pretty
Yeah,
nice.
that was pretty neat.
That's going above and beyond right there.
Yeah.
Where'd it sink at the ramp?
They're almost all the way back to the ramp, yeah. They noticed they were taking on water and they were hot footing it back to the ramp, and made it almost to the ramp when it went down.
Thank you, Chris. Ryan Carter, Secondary Roads.
Good morning. Couple project updates. Flint Bottom's moving along good. Poured a nice chunk of concrete last week, and we'll be pouring the rest of the main line be tomorrow and Thursday. So I believe is the current schedule. So they bounce back and forth between Wednesday, Thursday, Thursday, Friday, but I think they settled on Wednesday, Thursday. So so that's a nice change to see out there. That's coming along. Of course, there's still work left after that. That doesn't mean the road's gonna be open yet. We still gotta get it all backfilled and the tidy up work to make it look like a final project. But it is great progress, and I think the residents out there appreciate seeing that get done. So, one big change, I guess, or change to note, the paving project at Geode. We've worked with the contractor, I should say, and we are going to delay that. It's a mutual agreement. We're gonna delay that to next spring construction. We asked the contractor to hold off. They were planning on starting it right on time back in August, but I'll remind you, Henry County had their road failure, and so to help them out, we left the road open so that they didn't have extra traffic on the rest of their system, which was for the best. It was the thing to do. And when you mess up a schedule like that, it has domino impact to a contractor. And so we have had a similar discussion with the Pleasant Grove project. I don't know if that's gonna get postponed or not, so I'll let you guys know. There's a possibility that a portion of that'll get done off of the roadway, and then the rest of it would be next spring. There's a couple different options being discussed, so we don't have anything answer-wise on that yet. But the Geo project as of now, although we have not formalized paperwork on it, will tentatively right now will get pushed back till next April. We'll just suspend working days. We'll basically set a new late start date and have full working days ready to go next year. For our work schedule, it works just fine. And so it always makes a guy just a little bit nervous talking about trying to get paving done out in late October or November. You just don't ever know what the weather's gonna be like. So anyway, that is a change, and when I know more officially, I'll let you know, and if I find out anything else, we will find out something else on Pleasant Grove. I'll pass that on, obviously, also. I would note I haven't said anything for quite a while, but the shop that we been building, I guess, up on Iowa City Road, that'll house 2 motor graders permanently and allow us to get rid of two motor grader shops that were in terrible condition years ago, much less now. that is just on the verge of being used. So it's right on the cusp of kind of doing the final checklist type stuff, and come along very good. So at some point, someday in the future, I'll get you guys up there so you can take a look at it. But I just wanted to mention it to you that I would say it won't be terribly long, and we'll be running both motor graders out of there, and we'll start working towards cleaning out the other shops and working on getting rid of those. We'll auction those off and just get rid of that property. We don't need to hold on to it. So, and the other thing I would mention, mostly because I'm guessing at least Jim will take note at some point today, possibly if he sees them. But I kind of gave a challenge or a task to one of our guys that likes to do some fabrication in the shop, and we've been our shouldering machine last spring died. Shouldering machines take a beating, and the ones you buy don't ever have a great life. And another county came up with a design that was a more gravity feed type design without moving parts, without a belt, without some of that stuff. So we're in the process of kind of stealing their design, but also modifying, because our trucks are different than their trucks. And a lot of credit to one of the guys in the shop, Brian Hand. He has done a nice job working with that, along with the mechanic, Dave. They've kind of taken it under their wing. I don't think it's in the final condition, but I want to mention it that we do have it to a point where it functions. And we can't do quite everything we want to do yet. We have some modifications to do as we move forward. But as far as straightaways and stuff, so I believe they're working out on Old 34 today. That's why I mention it, because it's not something you've seen before. It's going to look like a tandem truck, but it's got the machine, I guess what I'll call it the shouldering box or whatever you want to call it, just sits off the back of it with a couple tag wheels. So like I said, we're not done with it, but it is usable, and we needed to get some stuff done before winter. So we went ahead and put it into service so we could learn some lessons and go from there. So just in case, particularly Jim, if you see that out there, you'll have an idea what it's doing. It's pretty slick. It lays about a 3-foot strip of rock down, and if he's able to, he can line it up. It lays it right off the edge of the white line, and of course we can clean up any. We're still learning, so if there's a mess, motor grader runs down, just knocks it down. But so
Sounds like that's gonna work better than that drop blade on the driveway snow plows
it's
on the graders.
yeah, by a long ways. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for bringing up that miserable failure on my part. So Shane, did you have a question?
Are there any budget implications? Are there any budget, are there gonna be any budgetary changes for putting back the Geo project? Is that?
No, I don't anticipate any. The contractors, both conversations, it was kind of a mutual decision, convenience for them, and because they worked with us. The other one is not so much a convenience thing as a COVID thing, to be honest with you, on the Pleasant Grove stuff.
Right on.
And we've actually had some conversations with them, because if they do part of it this fall and part of it next spring, there'll be a couple extra mobilizations, for instance, for subcontractors, and they understand they would have to eat that we won't pay an extra mob. So I don't anticipate anything on that front, so. I think that's all I have, so I'm sure I've forgotten something. You guys have anything else? We got plenty of stuff going on.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, thanks.
Rodney Gleason, maintenance.
Good morning, just keeping busy, got an agenda item, nothing new to add, thank you.
Thanks, Rodney. Angie Vaughn, safety.
Good morning, just keeping busy, nothing really out of the ordinary, so I don't have anything really to report.
Okay, good, thank you. I think I missed anybody. Okay, correspondence. I had none. Did either of you gentlemen have any correspondence?
No.
Don't have any.
Proceed to discussion and vote. We need to have a public hearing on floodplain development ordinance number 25.
Move to go on to public hearing for floodplain ordinance number 25.
Sarah,
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes.
I know I put several items in there for you, Tom. One of them is Jared's report, and the other one is there's the summary of what was published, and then the whole ordinance, so you got lots of
Well,
things to choose from.
I'm pretty sure nobody wants me to read the whole ordinance.
So they're like what,
It's been,
27 pages?
it was available in the packet, and
Yes.
I assume on the website.
Yes.
So, if there's any request that I read any of this, I've got several options here. Speak now or forever hold your peace.
What am I hearing?
If you'd like, I can go through the staff report here.
If you want to do that, that'd be great.
Yeah, just to give some background on what we're doing here. So this is what you have today is a revised version of the floodplain development ordinance for Des Moines County. The original ordinance was adopted in 1993 after the big flood, and it's been amended several times, most recently in 2015. Purpose is to protect rights, privileges, and property of unincorporated Des Moines County. Specifically, this is through minimizing the risk of property to damage from flood events in areas that have been identified as at risk of flooding, periodic flooding. So it includes minimum standards for development of buildings and uses within those identified floodplains, and flood-proofing measures such as the elevation of a building above the flood level, as well as some structural standards, how to stabilize structures during a flood. And so the ordinance specifically references the firm maps, the flood insurance rate maps from FEMA, which are used to determine which areas are in a special flood hazard area, and therefore would be subject to the provisions of this ordinance, such as the need to apply for a permit to construct in that area. And so, as I mentioned, the ordinance has been amended several times. This is usually always due to the fact that the maps have been updated, and it's necessary that the ordinance reference the effective date of the most recent effective maps for the county, the firm maps. And so hopefully that will become less frequent now, since the most recent study that was released in 2018 was done utilizing LiDAR imagery for high resolution imagery of the landscape. And so previously what information was available sometimes led to some curious situations where I remember at least one where someone had requested a letter of map amendment from FEMA because the maps showed their house as being in a floodplain, but when you actually look at all you have to do is look at an aerial photo, and the creek you can see that it's supposed to be following is outside the floodplain. So clearly, whatever they were using previously was susceptible to occasional errors, usually not quite that dramatic, but in some cases definitely noticeable. So this new imagery will allow for much more precise and accurate depictions of where the primary flood risk is at. So that went through the standard review process through FEMA. We had a public meeting in late 2018 to discuss that at regional planning. There was staff from the DNR and FEMA present for that. It was delayed a little bit because they had some issues with the maps lining up for different counties, because each FEMA has consultants that work on a given county at a given time, and sometimes the maps didn't quite match up right at the border. So that has been resolved. And then, so several months ago, FEMA informed us at the county that a date had been set. That's October 21st of this year, when the new maps will become effective. And so it's now necessary to ensure that the ordinance is updated prior to that date to reflect that date going forward so that the county remains in compliance with the requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program. So we worked with the staff at the Iowa DNR who reviewed the existing ordinance. You have a question?
No, I don't. Okay.
Well, so we worked with staff at the DNR to review the existing ordinance, identify changes that would be necessary apart from the date of the effective maps. And there were quite a few identified, however, most of those were relatively minor. So there, for example, there's a lot of changes in preferred terminology by FEMA that, such as moving away from using the term 100-year flood and instead using the term base flood, which already is consistent with the term base flood elevation, which is what, or BFE, which is what we use to determine how high a building has to be raised if it's to be in compliance. And then also using the term buildings, or using the term structures instead of buildings, because that's a more all-encompassing term and could potentially involve some larger structures that would be relevant to this ordinance, which wouldn't necessarily be considered a building since it's not enclosed with walls and a roof on all sides. So there's a lot of minor changes like that. A few more substantive ones, which we have a list that includes the major changes. But in any case, so the Floodplain Advisory Board met on 24th of August to discuss the proposed ordinance replacement. Several of the changes were discussed in detail. We had a little bit of a conversation on, they had a few follow-up questions on those, but overall, considering the nature of this, using a model ordinance from the DNR, and just a few optional things that we have the choice to be opt for a stricter standard. Overall, it was seen as pretty straightforward what was being proposed, and so a motion was made to approve to recommend approval of the floodplain development ordinance, and that was approved unanimously. So at this point, we're just going through the standard public hearing process before the board, and we would recommend approval of the new ordinance. So at this point, I've opened up to questions.
FEMA issues your new floodplain maps. Those, you might remember them. You've only been here a few days, and they sent us that box like that, all the maps folded up.
Yeah.
And somebody put it on your desk. You did.
We have digital copies as well. I
Anyway.
think most of the time we'll be using the digital copies.
But if we don't change the floodplain ordinance to match FEMA's new maps, and then nobody in Moines County is eligible for the federal floodplain, so it's
Right.
we
And
have.
that includes property owners that are not even in the designated floodplains. It's just something that's available to them because the county participates.
So we can either do it or we don't have flood insurance.
When,
We're doing it.
Through the NFIP at least.
Yeah.
2015, when they redid this, I remember at a meeting out there, found out that part of Danville's school grounds and the houses across the street was in the floodplain because of that creek going down.
Right, yeah. So,
Just,
yeah, then of course, the individual municipalities have their own
Yep.
ordinances for that. We've been working, because Danville didn't participate in the program, didn't have an ordinance therefore, and so we worked with them a couple of years ago since it impacted a larger number of properties, and we had a discussion with them about the implications of disaster relief funding that would be on the table if they were a participating member of the NFIP. So they now do participate in that, and we've also worked with Mediapolis because they have been participating in the NFIP, but they didn't have any map floodplains because the previous study stopped right at city limits. It followed the creek right up to the east side, and so now it goes all the way through. And so we've worked with them to have them review the state model ordinance, and then I think they haven't already, they're in the process of having that approved right now.
This is a public hearing, so if anybody's watching this meeting on being streamed, if you have any comments regarding this ordinance, you may email the Board of Supervisors at board@dmcounty.com. That's BOARD@dmcounty.com. You may call 319-753-8203, extension 4. That's 319-753-8203, extension 4. We'll give you a couple minutes to initiate that call or that email. Anybody in attendance have any comment on this ordinance?
I do. Sorry, I lost my chest. This is could you explain that this is kind of a standard operating procedure, that we have to clean up stuff to get with the state or to get with the feds as sometimes things change, or if they, as you said, if things are a little bit gray, they've got to clean that up, so.
It's a federal program providing that flood insurance, so they have a floodplain maps that says this area is in the floodplain, this area isn't in the floodplain, and so then they'll have different premiums for whether you're in the floodplain or out. And if you don't like your maps, you don't have to participate.
But hasn't there been people that they bought some property or something and they didn't think that they were in the floodplain and then found out later that they were? Is this where this is stemmed from? Just misunderstanding of people building or buying
Well,
property?
sometimes the maps change and they build something that was incompliant at the time, but then the maps change later, in which case obviously that's just a non-conforming use that was allowed at the time that the maps were in effect. But sometimes if it's just related to purchasing a flood insurance, if you've got a thoroughly back mortgage, for example, if you're now in a floodplain, then that becomes relevant. As I said earlier, there is a process where if you feel that the maps for your particular property don't accurately reflect the real risk, there is a process called letter of map amendment where you can request a further study and possible exemption from the requirements, but that's dependent on being able to provide documentation from an engineer or a surveyor that specifically says that the structure in question is not actually below the flood level, and so it actually is in compliance. So if it can be determined that building is not actually subject to the risk, as let's say they put some fill in place and raised it up, and the LiDAR maps that they used for the floodplain didn't take that into account, and so that would allow that particular structure to be exempt going forward.
Do homeowners get notified if they've been added?
We have been, like when we did the public meeting in 2008, we did an assessment where we identified, did an assessment of the GIS map of the current floodplains and the new floodplains, and we identified a set of properties where the floodplain, a property was newly added to the floodplain, and we sent a mailing to all of those properties identifying them. I don't believe is required, but we felt it was appropriate at the time, just so that people would be aware. And that was, again, it's for this upcoming map that's going to take effect this year, but again, just so they were aware.
And I guess I can show my age. Back in '93 when they passed that, I was here at this meeting and it was a packed room. And then a year later is when I joined the county, and then I got to regulate that stuff. I mean, it was beneficial because anybody that lived in the bottoms that wanted to build a house, depending on the bank, they wouldn't give you a loan because you couldn't get flood insurance, and by passing this, they were able to get flood insurance.
Ken, did you? Oh, I thought you raised your hand. Okay, sorry.
One specific change that I had alluded to that we had discussed at the previous floodplain advisory board meeting back in January 2020 was there's an optional larger definition of a couple of terms, substantial damage and substantial improvement. And having that in the ordinance specifically is used as a way, when somebody wants to do an improvement project on their property, such as taking a cabin and raising it up above the floodplain, if they had substantial damage from a previous flood, they're eligible to apply for funding assistance through FEMA. But it depends on the local ordinance, because they need to have confirmation from the local administrator that the property indeed was damaged, and the substantial damage. The standard definition is that the damage was greater than 50% of the value of the structure prior to the damage, and also the substantial improvement, meaning the cost of repairing it is over 50% of the value. And so what we're looking at was an expanded definition of that, because the current definition only applies to one specific flood damage event where the damage has to exceed 50%. And this optional expanded definition allows for two events of 25% of the value damage or more. So that it allows for a cumulative damage, where if a property gets repeatedly damaged from flood, but any one individual event isn't enough to exceed that 50% threshold, that would allow them to be eligible for that assistance to flood-proof their property, the same as for someone that's at over 50% for one event. So we had discussed that and determined that given that a lot of properties along the river have already done those types of improvements following the 93 and 08 floods, there are still some additional properties that could potentially benefit from that if they chose to go down that route. So we feel that would be ultimately beneficial to more property owners in the county going forward, to give them that option to incentivize the floodproofing measures.
Thank you, Jared.
2 minutes left.
Did the auditor's office get any emails in regard to this ordinance?
No, we have not.
Right, haven't heard anything.
I'm not aware of any, haven't had a chance to talk to Zach yesterday, but I haven't heard of any comments that have been submitted to us.
Thank you.
Move we go out of closed session.
Second. Sarah?
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. We need a motion on the floodplain development ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Sarah?
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. Now that we've voted on it, does this need to be 3 public hearings, or is 1 enough?
It needs to be 3, but you can waive the third one at the next.
But you can't waive it till after you've had the first vote.
Right, I believe.
Is the way I understand it, is you can't, so
And
we could
he's-
waive it now.
Well, he's got a resolution that I did not include in that.
Okay.
Because I didn't think you guys would approve it the first hearing, so.
Okay.
I figured we'd probably have to go one more, and then you could waive the third one and approve
Okay,
it.
so we've approved it on the first hearing.
And we'll get that resolution attached to that next week then.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay. We are Class C liquor license for the Hy-Vee Anderson wedding, Barn on the Ridge, on October 2nd, 2021.
I move to approve.
Second?
Sarah?
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes.
Five minutes, Stephanie.
And we have a request from the 911 board. This letter is to request that you formally appoint new representative to the Des Moines County 911 Board. Your last official representative was Supervisor Bob Beck. Appointments to the board do not expire nor do they need to be renewed. Thank you for your cooperation in this matter. Since we didn't have one, I attended the meeting last Tuesday, Wednesday, something like anyway. And congratulations to the sheriff. He's the new chairman of the 911 board.
Thanks so much. It's an honor to serve.
Anyway, so what do they meet every 3 or 4 months?
Yeah, and then there's actually a length of time throughout the spring and summer that we don't, but a lot of it has to do with budget and then needs for just to get appropriate communication and when there's
As needed basis.
Yes.
And they usually have the meetings on in the evening, what, 5 o'clock?
Yes.
4:30, 5 o'clock.
What day is that usually on?
It just, usually what Chief Truxell, the Burlington Fire, has been the chair, and he'll send out an email and just make sure it works in everybody's schedule. But moving forward, I'll do the same. It'll probably be like a Tuesday or Wednesday, someday in the middle of the week, and we'll meet towards the end of the workday.
I have Bible study on Wednesday, so.
Sounds to me like Shane just volunteered.
I think so. I think these guys need a little Bible study too.
Do I
I just bring my Bible with me, I go, KT.
So moved. Thanks, Shane.
You gonna second that?
I second that. Amen.
Sarah?
Jim Carrey,
Yes,
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes.
you're a good man, Shane.
Oh, that's the first time he's ever said that. Oh, I forgot, we're in public. Whenever in private, he talks to.
Congratulations to both of you.
Welcome to the commission, Jim.
Okay, we have a Domestic Violence Awareness Month proclamation. Whereas domestic violence, dating violence, and stalking affects women, children, and men of all racial, cultural, and economic backgrounds, causing long-term physical, psychological, and emotional health. And whereas 1 in 3 Americans has witnessed an incident of domestic violence, and whereas children who experience domestic violence are at a higher risk for failure in school, mental illness, substance abuse, suicide, and may choose violence as a way to solve problems later in life. And whereas domestic violence in rural communities exists as a hidden, silent, and often unrecognized crime that is often underreported. Whereas through the inspiration, courage, and persistence of victims of domestic violence, their children and advocates, our communities are learning to recognize the impact of violence in the home and within intimate relationships. And whereas the Domestic Violence Intervention Program has worked to end violence in intimate relationships for more than 40 years through the collaborative partnerships of advocates, volunteers, local municipalities, criminal justice, health, and human services, faith communities, business leaders, and private citizens. And whereas our community's achievements should be commended, and we must continue our commitment to respect and support victims of domestic violence and to prevent future violence in our community. Now therefore be it resolved that we, the Des Moines County Board of Supervisors, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2021 to be Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Des Moines County, Iowa, and urge all people to work together to eliminate domestic violence, dating violence, and stalking from our community.
We need to vote on that. Yeah, I move we vote on that, and I think it's a thing that we really should support.
Second, I second that.
Sarah.
Jim Carrey?
Excuse me just a minute. We have somebody, apparently, is it Alda? Alda, I apologize.
No problem.
They don't entrust me with much IT equipment. I'm a little hard on it apparently. So anyway, is there anything you'd like to speak to before we vote?
Yeah, I just, if I could take a few moments to just share some updates and numbers with you all. First of all, thank you so much for your support over the years. And declaring October Domestic Violence Awareness Month, letting victims know that they have the support of their communities, valuable and helps them know how to reach out for services. We have a couple things going on in October I wanted to share with you, and then also just an update on our numbers. I did send a handout that you will be getting with our past fiscal year's numbers, but was able to connect with our Rural Services Manager, Allie, and just wanted to share that in the past few months, so over the summer, our advocates in Des Moines County have averaged 40 to 50 clients a month, so they have doubled over this pandemic year. And we are seeing a number of more weapons being used in these cases. Many of them have had guns and machetes used, and that is a bit startling and certainly something for us to take note of and be aware of. Right now, more than ever, it is important for our advocates to be present and meet with victim survivors where they are. Our mobile advocacy program allows them to do that and connect at various locations to build safety plans. On a positive note, a number that I'm very proud of our advocates for is that 96% of those individuals that we are serving have reported feeling safer because of the work that they've done. So that comes through the safety planning and the counseling, the one-on-one support, legal processes in hospitals. And so definitely kudos to our staff for really building some strong safety plans and helping victims out. In addition, ways that the community can support DVIP and those victim survivors in Des Moines County. We will be having a Shop for Safety event during the month of October at Hy-Vee on Angular. We will have pre-made bags that individuals can buy, and those will have different items that individuals need when they are leaving a dangerous situation or as they are navigating finding permanent housing. So everything from cleaning supplies to non-perishable food items. So that'll be from October 1st to the 31st at Angular Hy-Vee. We also are accepting gift cards and monetary donations to help pay for gas and that type of thing as well. So as you can imagine, those are areas that when you are fleeing a dangerous situation, you're not necessarily thinking to grab on your way out. So just a couple of things of note that I wanted to bring your attention to. And once again, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you all,
Yeah, and I'm happy to answer any questions y'all might have as well.
Any questions? I don't think there are any questions, but we appreciate what you do and thank you for taking the time to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Sarah?
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
You know, my granddaughter went to Iowa this year, graduated last year, and this is gonna be her first year of college. She called home, said she went to a protest up there, and this is what it was about, this rape that is going on the college. And I would never thought that she would have been up there, because this gal is quiet and everything, you know, she never does anything. And she really got into that, so. When you have grandkids, you want to support everything like this.
Thank you, Jim. Active shooter training. Rodney, I believe this is you.
Yep, good morning. As I mentioned at a previous meeting, we've been working on Had a couple meetings on putting together an active shooter training for here at the courthouse. With the public building, or courthouse and public buildings security policy we have. We try and do, according to Deb, we want to do an active event at least every other year, according to that policy. So the last one we did was in 2019. So it's time to do that one again. So we're just kind of here to, had a couple meetings and work through a lot of specifics, but we were looking at having the event on October 12th. So we're looking at, for the board's approval of closing the courthouse down at 2:30 in the afternoon on Tuesday, October 12th, to do this training.
What time, Rodney?
2:30 in
2:30.
the afternoon, yep, and it would just be closed for the day. After 2:30. Also, again, thank Mercy.
Do we have the authority to close the courts? I know we can close the county offices, or are they part of this?
The courts have been part of it. They're not having court that day. They have some judges conferences that Monday through Wednesday. I kind of work through them first, just to kind of see what the court schedule is to make sure kind of they're on board. So they just have some conference stuff going on that day, so they were good with this day.
Who's helping you out with the scenarios and the people involved? I want to be involved in that process. I've got plans for Tom and Jimmy.
We need somebody that's gonna be a victim to get shot.
I've got plans for Tom and Jimmy. We'll talk, Rodney. I want to be involved in this.
We got a lot. There's a lot of people involved with this full-scale event, because it's not only just training for the courthouse and the employees here. Also emergency management. We got to thank Gene, Emergency Management Office, the CERT team, Angie, Kevin, and the Sheriff's Office are going to have a lot to do with it. He's really worked on the scenario, so you have to give it to Kevin, because I don't even know what.
You've given Kevin full control over scenarios? I'm as good as dead.
He's got plans for you.
I'm not showing up that day. Right now, that's gonna end up.
I don't even know what the complete scenario is, so, so I gotta thank Kevin and his staff, the Burlington Police Department, their staff, they've been involved with this.
Right on.
Also the Burlington Emergency Medical Services, they're gonna be involved in this, DESCOM, other county offices, for getting volunteers, maybe even some city officials. Angie's been working on getting a bunch of different volunteers to be customers and.
Are we taking videos so that
So
we can watch us afterwards and see who freaks out?
I really will love to have you to be one of our people that we get to shoot.
Oh, Angie Vaughn's been trying to shoot me ever since I got on council. Bless her
Now
heart.
is the chance.
Bless her heart. I'm trying to
We're gonna see how fast you can run.
I can't run.
2:30.
2:30.
We would close the courthouse, kind of just a quick brief plan, or idea of what we're gonna do, or what we're looking to do is closing the courthouse down at 2:30. Do a sweep of the building and make sure we have all the public out of the building. CERT team will be at the doors to make sure nobody comes in while we're having the drill. There will be some signs outside letting people know that it's
Somebody
going
will
to
call
be
the
a
highway
drill.
patrol.
Yeah, so the event will go down, so we encourage, everybody participating to use their, run, hide, fight training that they go through, call 911, use the pan buttons, do what you would do if it was an actual true event, so.
We need Jared roaming with the camera taking video. We'll work out.
So we will have some observers on each floor in case there is a true emergency, so I think there probably will be some cameras. Obviously, our cameras inside the building is gonna catch what we have. We won't have audio, but I'll have video. Then we'll kind of wind it down about 4 o'clock-ish and have a debriefing in the courtroom kind of afterwards, kind of go through things. See some things maybe we need to work on, if there's any issues, kind of go over that. Then we'll have a follow-up meeting with all the entities involved again and kind of work through that. So it's not only just great training for everybody here and employees, but also for the sheriff's office, for the people that would, respond to an event like this. Like I say, the Burlington PD, EMS, they're gonna have wounded, so they're gonna have to figure out where they're gonna station at, when and how they're gonna get in. They're gonna be working closely with law enforcement, so it really is a pretty big event. It's great training for everybody involved. You can not only use just here, you can use it wherever you're at. So we really appreciate the board's support with this event.
And I'm sure you have the board support. Do you need a vote on closing the courthouse at 2:30?
If you want me to do a resolution, I can put that on the agenda next week too, if you want.
I think about it, I don't think you need to. I'm
No,
not
'cause
sure
I
we
think
did the last time.
Yeah, the last
We just-
time you guys just approved it, so.
Just approved it, then somebody just got it in the media that the courthouse is gonna be closed at such and such a time. No, I think that's great. I appreciate the work you and Angie and Gina and your sheriff and everybody puts into that.
We definitely encourage you all to be here if you can, to go through the event as well.
And for the board, just to let you know, I think the last time, 2 years ago, it was Bob Beck and you and I, and we were sitting in here like we were having a board meeting, so.
Yeah.
I don't think you were here, Jim.
Well, I was
Were
on
you in here
vacation.
too?
Yeah.
Okay,
And we went in there, we shut the door.
yeah.
Bob and I were figuring out how to keep the door shut. We were both bemoaning the lack of a 9mm Glock to dispose whoever came through the door. But, so no, that's, you figure out a scenario, I'm sure some of us will be here anyway.
Shane, wear your tennis shoes. No sandals that day.
I only wear sandals, but hey, just so you know, I said a few things in jest, but I do take this serious. I know that this is not something to just be joking about, so no, when I show up, I'll be ready for action, my friend.
Do they have a tank down there?
To be determined. So what we really want is throughout the scenario to have what a real response would look like. So we want to give the courthouse staff the ability to go through their safety protocols and see the success of that, but also identify inefficiencies and where we need to improve on. But in reality, how that response from law enforcement and EMS is going to be, and how to establish that getting people out and safely out. So in reality, tank probably wouldn't be in the initial minutes of that response. It would be a flood of officers coming across the street, and then multiple officers coming from Burlington. So
Are you doing more than one active shooter?
We won't tell you what the scenario is, because we want everyone to play it out just the way it would happen.
You've got a lot of friends, don't you, Angie?
The reason I asked if Tank's gonna be here, he says he always wears sandals. I was
Have you
gonna
ever been
steal
to
one
one,
of them, I was
Shane?
gonna have.
What's
a
that?
practice
Have you ever
sniffing,
been
hunt
to
him
one?
down.
Yeah, part of like my third year, I think it's my first term as mayor, so it's about, that's how long ago it's been. It was at the, out to the, out there off Roosevelt, it's one of those places.
Oh, okay.
You were there,
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, it's.
but you guys
it's
shot
pretty
me then
intense.
too, so I was just curious. I guess,
That means you're not quick enough.
okay, bless you.
He's
You just gotta be
quicker by the
quicker
day.
to
I'll
find
kill
you.
you to wear
You'll have to
sandals.
work on your 40-yard dash.
I don't know how Tom keeps telling me, just keep wearing your sandals, you'll be all right.
Yeah, like I said, just gotta be quicker than the person behind you.
Okay, well, that's, I think that'll work well. We have personnel actions. We have personnel action for the recorder's office. We have Renee Wellborn, a clerk 2, September 27th, 7.5 hours unpaid.
Move to approve.
Second?
Sarah?
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. And we have a personnel action for DESCOM. We have it's a Wayne Zach or Zach Wayne?
Zach Wayne.
Zach Wayne, communications operator, 16 unpaid hours, September 9th, or September 10th and 11th.
Move to approve.
Second?
Sarah?
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Jim Carrey.
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. We have minutes for the regular meeting of September 21st, 2021.
Move to approve?
Second.
Sarah?
Jim Carrey,
Yes.
Shane McCampbell,
Yes.
Tom Broker.
Yes. Any other business?
Have none?
I have some. Last year, we had a countywide rural cleanup beginning Monday, October 12th through Saturday, December 19th. We've got a credit balance of $6,415.25. So we might as well use that because I believe it expires December 31st. So, do you have any thoughts on when you'd like
I would say open it up, and I'd probably put a note under it that it'll close when the balance is used up, because that's a little smaller, which is great. That means people are using it. So my opinion is put a big date range in like we did last year, and then we'll close it down when we hit that. So I think this is, if people will take advantage of it, this is great. And it saves my guys clean stuff. It saves residents doing stuff that they're really frustrated about as far as cleaning stuff up. It saves us harassing Kevin's guys to come out and try to help us find names, to try to get people to deal with stuff that they're illegally dumping, which they're great about, I would mention. So, which we appreciate, because if you can get somebody to have to go pick it up, they're a lot less likely to do it again. So I wish there.
And this is actually for rural residents. It doesn't include all the cities.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's geared towards rural
And
residents, but that's where we have the
that's-
illegal dumping.
Right.
That's addressed on this. I would just bring it up because we,
The city has cleanups too.
yeah.
So I think it's a great thing, and I would certainly support doing like you did last year, the same day ranges, and then if the balance gets down, then you can have that conversation.
I have Jerry just copy that for me. It's not on the agenda. So do you want?
So we could put that on the agenda
If you want
next
to
week.
put it on the
We'll
agenda
set
next
the
week, and we
dates.
could start it, what would be the 10th?
I don't know what the dates were on there.
This is October 12th
'Cause-
through Saturday, December 19th.
And I think they're only open every other Saturday. They aren't open every Saturday. I think it's the second and fourth. I don't know if it's dates on there, the second and fourth Saturday.
That
It says here
would
it's
be
eight.
the 9th and the 23rd then, so if we started that first weekend, like,
I'd go the
It
9th.
says here, it just says landfill
Yeah.
hours are 8 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday and 8 a.m. to noon on Saturday. I don't,
December-
I've gone on out there a number of Saturday mornings. I don't remember being closed on Saturday.
Well, I guess maybe I'm thinking of the recycling center. Is
Oh,
the
yeah,
recycling
you're
center?
that's probably right.
And I think now
You have to
I think
set up
you
an appointment
Last
there.
time I knew of, you still had to set up an appointment for
Yeah,
that.
it
so.
says you have to set up an appointment.
I mean, that's geared towards so we don't have refrigerators and stoves and everything dumped in the ditches, so that's really
Well,
helpful.
that could be a whole lot more user-friendly than it is. December 18th is the last last Saturday before
I
Christmas.
think we should start it then.
We were gonna do it the same, it'd be the December, because October 11th should be a Monday.
Yep.
It is.
Okay, so-
Just do it October 11th through December 18th
Okay.
Great.
until funds are expended.
Whoever's on the landfill commission, I'm gonna give that spiel again. It's very, very unuser-friendly, the way they take large appliances. And that's why we end up with a lot of stuff in the ditch.
TVs and hazardous materials as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
TVs,
TVs
I
aren't
should
even
mention,
covered.
I sure wish they had a better way of doing it, because their hours are limited, you've got to schedule an appointment. I know somebody that called and scheduled, and they're supposed to be open until 3 or 3:30, and they basically said, no, we won't do it that late. I just wish they were more user-friendly, because that's one of our big problems. Fridges, freezers, TVs, it really is. I wish there was a better way to go about that.
And if that's their mission to take care of hazardous waste and stuff like that, they want it there rather than in your ditches.
Yeah, and when you make it inconvenient, it's really convenient to back up to a ditch, apparently. I mean, broad daylight, they're showing up when they weren't there. It's so just something to mention, I guess.
They even lock people in there.
That's very efficient.
Anyway, we'll encourage you to bring that up to them.
Well, I mean, that's what we're seeing, so.
That will be brought up.
Thank you.
Bless you.
Let's put that on next week's agenda then.
Got it.
Any other business or future agenda items?
I don't know.
I have none. Committee reports.
Well, I missed a tour with Chris on the Cessna Park that he had set up, so I'm glad you updated me on that. But, then I had a regional planning meeting and several things, and the thing that stood out was they talked about the houses, you know, they're gonna put in, 5 houses this next year, you know, in these Iowa homes.
Manufactured homes, whatever they call them,
That's about it. Had a good sub sandwich.
I didn't get fed, but Community Foundation of Des Moines County, they took in some more funds from a donor, and they're hiring a part-time executive director, and then that's about it. And then Community Action. Community Action is just trying to work through some of this post-COVID legislation and recommendations with staff and with Head Start. So just like everybody else, just trying to maneuver through some of the new rules. So that's about it.
yeah. That's it. Well, it was a Zoom meeting, but I attended like a little ad hoc meeting with mental health and disability services and law enforcement personnel about the problems that law enforcement has finding places to take individuals with mental health rather than mental health issues rather than to the jail. And it was good discussion. And as I mentioned, the 911 board, besides electing a new chairman, they approved a new amplifier system for the Burlington Police Departments. Is that similar to what we have on the roof?
Yeah, it'd be almost identical. And there's one here that is for the Burlington's operational channel, but that was for when they were at the old police department. So moving into their new building, they've identified areas where a large number of areas where they just can't communicate. They're not receiving or able to transmit out. Just gotta have first responders that can communicate. So that's what the funds are there for.
Yeah, that's what the 911 board's there for. So, and that was all I had. Public input. If anybody from the public would like to comment or say something to the board, you may email the Board of Supervisors at board@dmcounty.com. That's BOARD@dmcounty.com. BOARD@dmcounty.com. You may call 319-753-8203, extension 4. That's 319-753-8203, extension 4. We'll give you a couple minutes to initiate that email or that call. Any comments from the room? Yes, sir.
I guess I just introduced myself. I'm Josh Millard. I am the district representative for Representative Marionette Miller Meeks. Just wanted to come down here and see what was going on in Des Moines County, meet all of you. Basically, if you have any federal issues that you'd like help with, feel free to reach out to me. Feel free to talk to me afterwards, but just wanted to come and introduce myself.
There's
Like I
still
said,
time for you to go through those FEMA maps if you want.
I mean, 24 pages, we could get reading right now.
There's a lot more than 24 pages. I'm talking about the maps.
Exit, stage left even.
No, but it's nice meeting all of you and glad to be here, but yeah, just wanted to come and introduce myself. My name is Josh Miller, once again. So.
Appreciate you coming down.
Fully out of the Davenport office, that we don't have internet still, so.
Just, do you have a phone number, anything, if anybody wants to?
Yeah.
Has any federal issues they want to vet?
641-680-2168. And I brought some cards as well, so I can pass you.
Can I have one? Since I didn't bring it. notebook, thank you.
Thank you very much.
If I can throw in, Burlington City Council Primary Forum is this afternoon. You can join online through Zoom. And it starts at, the candidates are John D. Phillips, Antonio Bailey, Christopher Repke, Terry A. Schnack, Matthew Rinker, Linda Graham Murray, Jeffrey Albert Knotts. So those of you that want to see what's going on.
Is it just on Zoom, or can you go to the, where's it being held?
It says join us today on the Burlington City Council Forum. It's on the Greater Burlington Partnership Zoom.
Okay.
So they give a passcode, but I thought they were having it on internet or on something else too.
Sorry, Shane, I missed that part. When is that?
It is, well, I'm looking for the time, but it's today at like 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. No, I think it's at noon. Doesn't say on this email, but it's at noon.
Hold on a second. I think I got an email from the partnership about that.
Click on the alarm part.
Huh?
The alarm
We're just
part.
talking to Jim.
Oh.
It worked.
All right. Thank you, Sarah, for instructing him correctly.
Got your back over here, Jim.
I thought it was at 4.
I thought it was around lunchtime because I thought one of the candidates couldn't make it because he couldn't get off.
Well, that's true.
So in other words, Kevin, you probably ought to call somebody else you don't wanna ask there. You got 3 different times. Poor man.
Greater Burlington Partnership website, see if they have.
It's
any
4 p.m. I just got.
Yeah.
Is it at 4?
For the city council,
I believe it's
Burlington City Council candidates.
I believe it's at 4. I got an email
Thank you,
from
my friend.
the partnership last week.
Okay.
so.
It's,
Thank you,
Okay,
Terrence.
that's 2 against 1, Shane, you're outnumbered, it's 4 o'clock.
So the new guy knows more than anyone else.
the, like, I need to see this, I was gonna go to that. Watch it.
For your city council?
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments? Thank you for coming, Josh.
Yeah.
With an eye, we're adjourned.
Aye.
Thank
We're
you,
adjourned.
gentlemen. Kevin, can I have you for a sec?
Can I get a card?
Did you want a copy of that?
Thanks.
Yeah. You can have it.
Dr. Miller Meeks was our optometrist for years for
Oh,
my
really?
daughter, back in Ottumwa, and, yeah,